Welcome. In this video, we're going to talk about Ssangsu Geombup Shipban, Form 10, Part 3. Yeah. Yeah. To begin with, we're going to start off with a change in tempo, right? So there was the seminar that I mentioned a couple of videos ago that was in Pittsburgh, so Master Shirk, right, talked about tempo in that one, which I'll leave to her to kind of describe in more detail because I'll be not as eloquent about it. But if you think about tempo in terms of like from 0 to 5 or like 0 to 100 or whatever percentile or something. So 0 just means you're not moving at all. Again, a low number means you're moving slowly. I'll just use 1 through 5 because that's what Master Shirk used. So we start off with a tempo of 0. We're in here, right? So the idea of this, again, just to reiterate, is it's not a guard, it's not a block, right? So it's not protecting your head. This is trying to still keep that tip honed in on your opponent's throat. Again, threatening them with the tip, right? So over here, we're starting off at 0. So think about this like a 1 out of 5. So this idea is nice and slow, moving into a 4 or a 5 as fast as you can with that double strike again. So this is something that we've talked about in previous forms. If you remember in Ssangsu 3, we had the idea of, again, quick motion, quick, and then slow and slow, right? The idea with 3 was the moment you hit your starting point here, then you're going to move quickly back into that 4 or 5. So the idea is, if you're my partner, right? So the idea is I'm threatening with that tip. This guard doesn't give you as easy an access to gauge my distance. So, and also I'm a lower position. So theoretically, I'm using this to bait you to do something wow, that was going to be a beautiful sentence. It's going to bait you to do something that I'm expecting you to do, right? So this is not the best guard in general, right? So obviously anything going towards my, below my head is going to be really awkward to kind of cover, right? Obviously I don't recommend this one, but so the idea is I'm trying to bait you in to do one of those because I am exactly planning to cover that, right? Coming in this way, again, in what we call our yoke sodose. Again, this is sodose, that's yoke sodose. So the idea is I'm moving nice and slow towards you. The moment I get within my range that I think I can strike, I'm going to use the same strike we just did earlier in form with a quick hit, right? Again, the idea being you're not using blade versus blade, but whatever, whatever works. So it'd be strike, full cut. In the form it's full 180. We can imagine going around some strike. But from here, we just did a 1, 2, going full 180 into a bomse in our down cut. So you can just from here, around, using the back of the sword to knock the sword out of the way, or doing a cheap shot to the wrist, up to you, depending on how foul you're feeling, right? You're gonna hit up as you do a finishing move, cross cut, which is a choice, because you're gonna be turning behind you in a interesting position, and then you're going to do our chakam. So I'm going to talk about the chakam in a little bit, but that is the general narrative of what's going on in the form so far. Let's talk about that trail end of it a little bit more. A couple red flags at the tail end of that, right? So up until that, up through that spin cut, feeling pretty okay, right? So the idea being, again, double tap, right? Which actually, at least for me, works okay in sparring. Just because the katana is a much faster, if you're fighting a longsword, for example, or European longsword, with the idea of maybe even using the false edge of the sword to tip back the way you came, to move around on the target, to strike high target, like a more lethal shot, like a headshot. But the final two moves are a little bit on the weird side. Now, sneak preview, we're going to be doing in 11. We're going to take two of these ideas and make them work better. So there is the timing that we have in Form 10. We're going to see that in 11, as well as an upper block crosscut. That motion is much better in Form 11, but we're playing with it right now, right? So I don't mind, again, like Form 8, using the false edge to strike the sword out of the way, but the idea of using a crosscut as a finisher, because notice, this is the last motion this person's getting before I turn and face someone completely new, right? So crosscuts in general aren't great unless if they're a high crosscut and they ride up underneath the chin. You can guess what happens, so that YouTube doesn't not like what I say. But giving this the best possibility, again, Form 11 is going to have a much better use of this, and we'll go through that in more detail. My best interpretation of this is going to be striking. So the person is the same person, right? So this is more likely to be that wrist shot. This is maybe back of the head, or a more debilitating strike across the shoulder. They might be now on a lower position, maybe to a knee, for example. This could be knocking whatever defense they have left. And then if they're kneeling, that is now this, although it's aimed for the ribs or aimed for the hip in the form. For them, if they're on their knee, headshot, right? That would make this a little bit of a better motion. I wouldn't trust to keep my back foot right where that target is, because if they have any cognizance left, they're going to try to, retribution, right? But that is one of my better interpretations of what's going on. So obviously, if you have any idea that is better than that, please let me know, because don't love it, but it's what we got. However, we do have that very last motion, which is also concerning. There's a lot of different interpretations for this one. But let's dive in that a little bit as we move on from whatever this might be, because we're moving into a one-handed high guard with a hand that's nice and low, concerningly low, but we'll talk about it. What's fun about this very last motion is that I don't like using the word canonical, right, because that changes quite a lot as you see teacher to teacher, right? Universally, what I've seen from this is the interpretation is it just is what it is, right? So the way that I originally learned this, again, this was almost 20 years ago, right, is the idea is you're using this to do a faster ripcord version of Form 8, right? So Form 8, we had that little shake and then nice and fast trying to get up to here. This is an even harder version of that. The risk kind of eclipses the utility of it a little bit, but the idea is we're here. I'm using this to rip the sword back even faster to have that nice put away. So that's one use of this. Another use of this that I have liked, and this was something I think I talked about a couple years ago, is using this as a pommel strike. Again, using the bottom or the back of the sword as a strike, right? So the idea is instead of necessarily here, which again, if you've studied open hand, like Taekwondo or something like that, you know the target area for that. But for here, it might be more of a grab and then pommel, again, grabbing their face or grabbing their collar, pommel, and then rip the sword back, again, using that, again, still try to get that centrifugal force to get blood away from the hilt. So there's a lot of different interpretations for that. I mean, you could do the more obvious thing. So for example, it is just a low strike. So it could just be a inner thigh or groin strike as you just maybe pommel on the top of the head up and then you move back. Lots of different interpretations. There was one that I think it was a master from Puerto Rico, I believe. I don't want to name names either because in case I got things switched up. But the idea that he brought up was you're here, you're using that to get some space for your finger to move over, and then you do that, right? So a lot of different interpretations for this one motion. The way it was explained, the way it was explained to me before, most recently, is you're just kind of booping it. They didn't say booping. This is my. So they were pop and then rip, right? So it was just a pop up turn back. Almost like you're trying to get the last bit of ketchup out of a bottle, right? You just pop it and then go back. Now that, for me, right, violates a major thing about what a chakam is supposed to be using for, or a noto, right? So the main purpose is to get blood away from the hilt, because if it seeps in there, it's going to oxidize the more raw steel in the hilt. So if I'm just doing like a ketchup bottle, all the blood, not only is it going to go on me, but it's also going to go inside the hilt, making that kind of a reverse useful noto, right? Because it did the opposite of what we want to do. So keep that in mind. There's if you think of something again, let me know, because this is one of those motions, as well as that previous motion, that I want to have a more happy understanding of what doing. That's what I got. But that's the end of Form 10. So Form 10 is, again, an interesting one because of the idea with the knee-high water, which maybe there's a reason for this or something that has something to do with that. I haven't thought of anything yet, so again, we'll keep playing with it. These are like evolving videos. Like, this is also where I'm kind of noticing where my understanding isn't as high as I would like it to be. So this video is one of those that I want to keep developing new ideas on fun stuff. So we'll keep playing with that. But with that, make sure you stay safe, stay humble, and keep training.